The history of Islam is mostly identified with Arabs, but the history of Arabs goes way back before the arrival of Islam in the Arabian Peninsula. Arabia has been inhabited by innumerable tribal units, forever splitting or confederating. Its history is a kaleidoscope of shifting allegiances. Today, we'll delve into the ancient peninsula before Islam. We'll be going from the ancient civilizations to the rise of the Arab tribes. Pre-Islamic Arabia. Pre-Islamic Arabia refers to the Arabian Peninsula prior to the rise of Islam in the 630s. Pre-Islamic Arabia wasn't just a single state governed by a single government or empire. Instead, the socio-political structure of pre-Islamic Arabia was made up of many different tribes who were constantly at war with one another. Among the most prominent civilizations were Thamud, which arose around 3000 BCE and lasted to about 300 CE, and Dilmun, which arose around the end of the 4th millennium and lasted to about 600 CE. Additionally, from the beginning of the 1st millennium BCE, southern Arabia was home to a number of kingdoms, such as the Sabian kingdom, and the coastal areas of eastern Arabia were controlled by the Iranian Parthians and Sassanians from 300 BCE. The Nabateans are not found among the tribes that are listed in Arab genealogies because the Nabatean kingdom ended a long time ago before the coming of Islam. They settled east of the Syro-African rift between the Dead Sea and the Red Sea, which is in the land that had once been Edom. And although the first shore reference to them dates from 312 BCE, it's possible that they were present much earlier. Petra lies in the Jordan Rift Valley, east of Wadi Araba in Jordan, about 80 kilometers south of the Dead Sea. The city was the principal city of ancient Nabatea and was famous above all for two things: its trade and its hydraulic engineering systems. It was locally autonomous until the reign of Trajan, but it flourished under Roman rule. The town grew up around its colonnaded street in the 1st century, and by the middle of the 1st century had witnessed rapid urbanization. The Dilmun civilization was an important trading center, which, at the height of its power, controlled the Persian Gulf trading routes. Dilmun is regarded as one of the oldest ancient civilizations in the Middle East. It appears first in Sumerian cuneiform clay tablets dated to the end of the 4th millennium BCE, found in the temple of the goddess Inanna in the city of Uruk. The Sumerians described Dilmun as a paradise garden in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Sumerian tale of the garden paradise of Dilmun may have been an inspiration for the Garden of Eden story. Dilmun was an important trading center from the late 4th millennium to 1800 BC and was very prosperous during the first 300 years of the 2nd millennium. Its commercial power began to decline between 2000 BCE and 1800 BCE because piracy flourished in the Persian Gulf. In 600 BCE, the Babylonians and later the Persians added Dilmun to their empires. The Dilmun civilization was the center of commercial activities linking traditional agriculture of the land with maritime trade between diverse regions such as the Indus Valley and Mesopotamia in the early period and China and the Mediterranean in the later period. Manaean Kingdom. The Manaean Kingdom lasted from the 4th to the 2nd century BCE and was predominantly a trading organization that for the period monopolized the trade routes. The Manaeans had a second town surrounded by impressive and still extant walls at Yathil, a short distance south of Karna, and they had trading establishment at Dedan and in the Catabanean and Hadramite capitals. The Manaean kingdom was centered in northwestern Yemen, with most of its cities lying along Wadi Mudhab. Manaean inscriptions have been found far afield of the kingdom of Mahin, as far away as Al-Ula in northwestern Saudi Arabia, and even on the island of Delos and Egypt. It was the first of the Yemeni kingdoms to end, and the Manaean language died around 100 CE. Sabian Kingdom. During Sabian rule, trade and agriculture flourished, generating much wealth and prosperity. The Sabian kingdom was located in Yemen, and its capital Madib is located near what is now Yemen's modern capital Sana'a. According to South Arabian tradition, the oldest son of Noah, Shem, founded the city of Madib. During Sabian rule, Yemen was called Arabia Felix by the Romans, who were impressed with its wealth and prosperity. The Roman Emperor Augustus sent a military expedition to conquer Arabia Felix under the command of Aelius Gallus. After an unsuccessful siege of Madib, The Roman general retreated to Egypt while his fleet destroyed the port of Aden in order to guarantee the Roman merchant route to India. The success of the kingdom was based on the cultivation and trade of spices and aromatics, including frankincense and myrrh. These were exported to the Mediterranean, India, and Abyssinia, where they were greatly prized by many cultures, using camels on routes through Arabia and to India by sea. Thamud. The Thamud were an ancient Arabian tribe or tribal confederation that occupied the northwestern Arabian Peninsula between the late 8th century BCE, when they were tested in Assyrian sources, and the 5th century CE, when they served as Roman auxiliaries. The Kingdom of Thamud was the first existing kingdom on the Arabian Peninsula, according to Assyrian and Roman sources. It had no written law, but the tribal leader played out the role of ruler. The Thamud are mentioned in contemporary Mesopotamian, classical, and Arabian sources, including in inscriptions in a temple created in the 160s for the god Ra by the Thamud themselves. The Thamud were known for the contemporary sources to have occupied parts of the Hejaz region, and later, Islamic tradition holds that they settled on the slopes of Mount Uthlab. Kingdom of Leon. Leon, also known as Dadan or Dedan, was a powerful and highly organized ancient Arab kingdom that played a vital cultural and economic role in the northwestern region of the Arabian Peninsula and used Dadanitic language. The Leonide kingdom went through 3 different stages. The early phase of Leon Kingdom, which was around the 7th century BC, started as a sheikdom of Dedan, then developed into the Kingdom of Leon tribe. Some authors assert that the Leonites fell into the hands of the Nabateans around 65 BC upon their seizure of Hegra, then marching into Tama, and finally to their capital Dedan in 9 BC. Werner Castle considers the Nabatean annexation of Leon was around 24 BC under the reign of the Nabatean king Aretas IV. Parthian and Sassanid. From the 3rd century BCE to the arrival of Islam in the 7th century CE, Eastern Arabia was controlled by 2 other Iranian dynasties of the Parthians and Sassanids. By about 250 BCE, the Seleucids lost their territories to Parthians, an Iranian tribe from Central Asia. The Parthian dynasty brought the Persian Gulf under their control and extended their influence as far as Oman. Because they needed to control the Persian Gulf trade route, the Parthians established garrisons in the southern coast of the Persian Gulf. In the 3rd century CE, the Sassanids succeeded the Parthians and held the area until the rise of Islam 4 centuries later. Nomadic culture and poetry. Like later cultures in the region, the Bedouin tribes placed heavy importance on poetry and oral tradition as a means of communication. Poetry was used to communicate within the community and sometimes promoted tribal propaganda. Tribes constructed verses against their enemies, often discrediting their people or fighting abilities. Poets maintained sacred places in their tribes and communities because they were thought to be divinely inspired. Poets often wrote in classical Arabic, which differed from the common tribal dialect. Poetry was also a form of entertainment, as many poets constructed prose about the nature and beauty surrounding their nomadic lives. Pre-Islamic Arabian music was primarily vocal, and it may have developed from simple caravan songs to a more sophisticated secular song. Instruments were generally used alone and served only to accompany the singer. The short lute, the long lute, flute, tambourine, and drum were the most popular instruments at the time. Religion in Pre-Islamic Arabia and the rise of Islam. Religion in Pre-Islamic Arabia included Pre-Islamic Arabian polytheism, ancient Semitic religions, Abrahamic religions such as Christianity, Judaism, Samaritanism, and Mandaeism, and Iranian religions such as Zoroastrianism and Manichaeism, as well as Dharmic religions such as Buddhism. Arabian polytheism was, according to Islamic tradition, the dominant form of religion in Pre-Islamic Arabia based on veneration of deities and spirits. The early 7th century in Arabia began with the longest and most destructive period of the Byzantine-Sassanid Wars. It left both the Byzantine and Sassanid empires exhausted and susceptible to third-party attacks, particularly from nomadic Arabs united under a newly formed religion. The 7th century saw the rise of Islam as the peninsula's dominant religion. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born in Mecca in about 570 and first began preaching in the city in 610, but migrated to Medina in 622. From there, he and his companions united the forces of Arabia under the banner of Islam and created a single Arab Muslim religious polity in the Arabian Peninsula. Even though Arabia has seen many social and political changes throughout the years, it has nevertheless remained the spiritually most important places in the Muslim world. Moreover, Islam requires every Muslim who can afford it to make a pilgrimage to Mecca during the Islamic month of Zul al-Hijjah. As a result, Arabia has become a place where Muslims from all over the world could come shoulder to shoulder without any discrimination, just like what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, preached thousands of years ago. Thank you all for joining us on this journey through the history of the Arabian Peninsula before Islam. We hope you've gained some valuable insights into this fascinating and complex topic. Until next time, take care and goodbye.